The PS1 in the mid to late 90s was fertile ground for all sorts of fighting games, including 3D arcade newcomers making their home console debuts, such as the first 3 Tekken games, new iterations of established 2D arcade and console franchises such as the Street Fighter Alpha series, as well as multiple Mortal Kombats, and interesting takes on the genre such as Bushido Blade and Bloody Roar. It also had War Gods. Namco's Soul Blade, or Soul Edge as it's known in Japan, falls squarely into the first categories with the Tekkens, the same series of games that caused Soul Blade to be overlooked by some upon its console release back in 1997, sandwiched as it was between Tekkens 2 and 3. Nowadays, Soul Blade is probably best known as the precursor to the Dreamcast Soul Calibur, which is widely recognised as being one of the best 3D fighting games ever made. Soul Blade is still well worth checking out though, and it makes a strong first impression with its famous intro movie. Even though it came out at a time and on a console on which every single game had an FMV intro, it stood head and shoulders above them thanks to its campy upbeat soundtrack, great looking action sequences, and a fella ripping his face off at the end. The game doesn't quite live up to its intro, but it's still pretty damn good. Weapons-based 3D fighting games on the PlayStation were nothing new. 3 Battle Arena Toshinden games had come out before Soul Blade even arrived in Europe, but with the greatest respect to that series, they weren't exactly close in terms of quality to Soul Blade. Although Toshinden 3 did have 10 count, so that's something, I guess? While Soul Blade doesn't have anyone in the same league as 10 count, his resemblance to any actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Its cast of diverse characters is one of its strongest points. From standard archetypes such as Mitsurugi the Samurai and Taki the Kunoichi to more offbeat individuals such as Cervantes the immortal pirate Ghostman and whatever the hell Voldo is, there's enough variety in the appearance and weapon sets to keep you interested for a while. Also, they may only be cosmetic, but it helps that each character has 5 different outfits too, all unlocked from the start. Outside of the weapons in Edgemaster mode, which we'll get to shortly, there isn't a whole lot to unlock to be honest. There's no gallery mode to rewatch the endings you've seen, no cosmetic shop that seem to be commonplace in modern fighting games, and the few characters that are unlockable don't amount to much more than palette swaps. Half the fun of Tekken's arcade mode was getting to play with another character after beating it with one of the main roster, but such a mechanic isn't present here. But the characters that Soul Blade does have are mostly memorable, and many are still around in the Soul series today. Even those that have been phased out have been replaced by characters who are quite similar, such as Li Long and Maxi, Rock and Astroth, Huang and Yunsung, Sophitia and Cassandra. Also, as a bonus, it doesn't have this motherfucker, who debuted in Soul Calibur a couple of years later. As you would expect, Soul Blade's arcade mode has your chosen fighter go up against all the other characters before taking on the end boss, much like Tekken and almost every other fighting game ever. However, unlike Namco's mostly weapons-free series, which uses FMV for its ending cutscenes, Soul Blades are rendered entirely in its game engine. This means they obviously don't look as good, but you are able to change them by pressing certain buttons at certain times. From Mitsurugi proving that a sword can beat a rifle by dodging its darts and Taki banishing the world's worst looking demon, to Siegfried stopping his transformation into Nightmare and in turn ruining several Soul series storylines, and Voldo mercilessly wanking off the evil sword to the point of destroying it, everyone has at least 2 endings that add a bit of replay value and some canonical confusion. While Tekken's supplementary modes tend to lean more towards comedy rather than meaningful gameplay experiences, such as in Tekken Force and Tekken Bowl, Soul Blade's Edgemaster mode is incredible. Each character has their own story with page upon page of lore as they scour the globe in search of their ultimate weapons. Sure, the base one-on-one fighting remains, but each chapter brings with it different conditions, ranging from simple ones such as defeating your opponent with only throws or beating several opponents in a row in a gauntlet, to slightly trickier ones like winning with the critical edge combo or only dealing damage when the opponent is in the air. A lot of fun in Edgemaster mode comes from collecting the weapons left when you defeat most opponents. Each character has 8 different ones that range in quality from less than useless novelties to genuinely overpowered health restoring blades of destruction. There are only a couple of times when you wouldn't want to use the most powerful weapon, Sophitia's otherwise useless sword breaker is good against a constantly blocking opponent for example, but after you unlock them in Edgemaster you're free to use any weapon you choose throughout Soul Blade's various modes. The only frustration in Edgemaster mode comes when searching for each character's ultimate weapon. Unlike in arcade mode, the game is not finished when Flaming Skeleton Soul Edge is defeated. You have to find the ultimate weapon by going back and re-winning an old battle adjacent to the last battle you just fought. If you lose that fight, the weapon will move to another adjacent location. The problem is, you don't know which one, and your only cue is an animation after you've already lost. It's one thing losing a fight, but it's another when you defeat 5 people in a row in a Colosseum gauntlet, only to find that the weapon wasn't even there in the first place. Your reward for finally finding it is an insane weapon with awesome stats, like Mina's spiky polo mint on a stick, or Huang's actually invisible sword. Unfortunately, owing to its age and place on the bottom rung of the Soul series ladder, Soul Blade has yet to see an HD upgrade like its more esteemed successors, and, let's face it, it probably won't be getting one anytime soon. And, even more unfortunately, it didn't see a release as a PS1 classic on PS3, even though Namco's own Tekken 1 and 2 did. So, unless you live near an arcade with a Soul Edge machine, the only way to play Soul Blade is by picking up a hard copy and playing it on a PS1, 2 or 3. But fortunately, it's not expensive at all. Plus, as a bonus, if you're in Europe, you get to see that sweet box art with a massive Voldo on it. So Soul Blade is now well over 20 years old, and like almost all 3D games from the 32-bit era, it's showing its age. Especially when you consider that certain aspects didn't even look very good back then. Seriously, if there is a worse depiction of water in a video game than the one in Cervantes' stage, then I have yet to see it. However, it's still a great game and deserves to be treated as much more than a footnote in the Soul Calibur franchise's history. Even if fighting games aren't your thing, you should at least check out the intro video. If that doesn't convince you to at least give it a try, then nothing will.